So we've already mentioned the what I would previously call the YPS Stormtrooper, and I'll be completely honest, I've always called it YPS. I just assumed that's what it was, but and when I've started researching it, it's not. It's actually a word. I always thought they were initials, but the Germans simply pronounce it, and I've got this written down. Yoops. You were down with that, Martin, because you had a pronunciation for it as well.
Yeah, I mean,
I've got
I
Yoops.
did the same as you did, and had a little look round on Facebook, and I found the group. There were German speakers on there, and they seem to be calling it "oops."
Okay. Well, I'll probably insert it here. I've got there was a news story in Germany about the magazine.
Blinkende, aber harmlose Laserpointer, die könnten sich auch in diesem Heft verstecken, das ab heute wieder da ist. Ups.
And I'm sure she's saying "Oops,"
Ups.
but we'll see what we get to with it. But I'm gonna call it "Oops" for now.
Ups.
And then I can bleep myself out if I get it wrong every time. But so
Absolutely.
"Oops."
Or we just asked Stefan, couldn't we?
Yeah. So
Ups.
"Oops" was essentially a short, punchy contraction of the word "Upsilon," which is the German word for the letter Y in the Greek alphabet. I've read that the publishers chose it because it sounded cool and modern and futuristic back in the 1970s, when the comic book was first published. So the comic was launched in 1975. It was published by a West German publisher called Gruner and Jahr. It was heavily inspired by the French comic Pif Gadget, which in the late 1960s was selling around 1 million copies per week in France. And in early 1975, 5 regional test issues of Oops was released before a full national rollout later that year in the October. The weekly comic featured original comic strips, including the title character Oops, who was a green kangaroo, alongside licensed strips, including the aforementioned Piff from France. But what really captured kids' imaginations wasn't the comic, it was the gimmick. So every issue came with a free gift or gimmick. We're talking all sorts here. We're talking spy gear, survival tools, a square egg maker, sea monkeys, and of course, action figures. The gimmick was the event, and each issue's content was framed around its gimmick. And that brings us to issue 510. So in issue 509, on the back page, it advertised the following week's gimmick, which was an Imperial Stormtrooper of the Empire. And then in issue 510, with a cover date of the 8th of July 1985, came packed with a PBP Hoth Stormtrooper, complete with skirt and a blaster. But here's where it gets interesting. Although some of the figures came with the standard Stormtrooper rifle, the majority, it appears, came with a black SA-80 rifle from Palitoy's Action Force line. So I followed up on this with Dave Tree, because he knows a lot about Action Force, last week, and the SA-80 was a distinct Palitoy creation. It was not used in mainstream Star Wars distribution, and it wasn't a G.I. Joe accessory either, although it is frequently referred to as such. Palitoy produced it in 4 colours over the years. There was a red version, a white, silver, and of course the black. But the black version was never packed with an action figure. It was only available in a villain's weapons pack. So now we've got a figure originating from Spain, and we've got, in many cases, a weapon originating from Palitoy in the UK. Something else to bear in mind is that around this time, Yeeps had a circulation of roughly 500,000 copies per week. So someone somewhere in 1985 had 500,000 PBP Stormtroopers sitting around, complete with skirts, and paired them up with potentially hundreds of thousands of Palitoy black SA-80 rifles. So the big question I have is, where did Yeeps get its 500,000 Stormtroopers and SA-80s from? A couple of other bits there. So PPP wound up its operations in 1984, as far as I can see. And Palitoy, meanwhile, were in the process of selling off its Star Wars stock cheap in stores like Woolworths. But there's no evidence I could find that Palitoy directly supplied this promotion. But what do you boys think? Any thoughts, any theories how they might have all come together?
With the Snowtrooper itself, the figure, I can't speak of the numbers there. I don't know. In terms of the accessory pairing, a lot of the comics are the standard blue rifle, the blue Imperial Hoth rifle. And I would say more than likely they just ran out. There was probably they had a certain amount there. And so then at that point, you're looking around going, well, what else can what can I put with this that fits in the figure's hand that seems appropriate? And the black SA-80 rifle was what they ended up reverting to. So that's how it ended up being paired with the figure, just as like an overstock solution to a problem.
And I do wonder, with that Grey Limb Stormtrooper ending up in a Palitoy warehouse, I wonder if they were part of this batch of PvP Stormtroopers. for this promotion. I don't know. It's just odd that all of a sudden there's these PBP figures appearing in market stalls with grey limbs, and then another batch of them ending up with Palitoy weapons in their hand, potentially. Just all seems a bit weird that it's all framed around one figure.
There was just lots of them. There was so many of them. I mean, you can look around. Half the listings will be, PvP Snowtroopers. I mean, Chewbacca's a really common one as well. But yeah, that's the figure that they ended up using here, probably because they just had so damn many of them just left in stock there. So it's like, right, we'll pair up with this magazine, we'll do a promotion.
Yeah.
It's a premium we can attach to the front, and we can sort of shuffle off all this extra stock, and they can sell more magazines. So it's probably just a pairing of convenience more than anything else.
Yeah, just going through a liquidator or something like that, and then bringing them together.
Do you think it would be an overstock? That seems like a lot. That sounds like serious inventory management screw up to have 500,000 overstocked stormtroopers.
Well, as I said, I can't speak for the numbers. They are
even half of that.
common.
Even if it was half of that.
Well, I looked it up. I said around in the 1980s they peaked at 600,000, and it's estimated. There's no numbers, kind of official numbers anywhere, but it's estimated there was anything at the circulation. The comic circulation in 1985 would have been around 400 to 600,000 copies per issue.
What was the date of this particular issue?
1985, July.
85. So it was really at the end of the run, wasn't it? Because you get a Hoth Stormy turning up quite a lot in the 2-packs as well, which does suggest that when they were doing that they had quite a few of them kicking around. Yeah,
really popular figure. Yeah, for whatever reason, that particular factory took it upon themselves, were instructed to produce a lot. Maybe they foresaw some more legs in the line, before it sort of petered out. But as it goes, there was just a lot of these ones here left over. So they're probably looking for any sort of promotion or packaging sort of event that they could use to move some of the surplus stock.
Yeah, I mean, whatever the truth, I love it. I've seen these before. I've not really taken a huge amount of notice to them, but it's one of those wonderfully odd crossovers that only adds to the toy line for me. And now I really want a copy of that comic.
Yeah, it looks great. Again with the red as well. It's a recurring theme.
Yeah.
I mean, a question for you guys: if you've got the PBP figure, do you have it with a blue Imperial rifle, or do you have it with the black SA-80?
I've got it with the SA-80. I'm sorry to say. Yeah, I couldn't resist. Yeah, mine has got one. Yeah.
Martin, Pete.
Yeah, no,
I don't have one. I know it's so expensive though. So one sold on eBay for €600. So that was the comic and the figure just before Christmas.
That was I was gonna reference that in a minute. I mean, the actual gun itself, I think you're looking at about 60 quid for that if you wanted to get one on its own. I lucked out, but yeah, if you wanted it, you'd probably pay that if someone put that up. It would probably go pretty quick. They do seem to shift.
And yet, if it was the silver version of the rifle or the red one,
no one would want to know.
$5. They go for nothing.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Action Force collectors must hate us for that if they want these guns.
I know. Star Wars fans have got a way of sort of inserting ourselves into other hobbies and making ourselves really unpopular. I'm just thinking of Palitoy or Action Force collectors, Action Man collectors that are wondering why these idiots keep buying up these black SA-80 rifles that they don't need.
I think the concern was because it only came with that villain's weapons pack. Star Wars collectors were buying it and ripping them off the card to get the blaster. But even that weapons pack, I think there was one on eBay recently. So the seller had it up for 120, and then I suppose when you weigh it up, is it worth tearing it off the card for something that's probably worth half of that? But price-wise, recent examples I've found with the figure I've sold at Vectors for around 400 quid. I think there was one last year that sold, and then one several years before that. And the example that the Martin you mentioned there, I think it's £540 on a buy it now in December from Germany. I haven't seen the fully bagged version though, because I think this came bagged in the comic book. I think if one of those services, I imagine, you'll be looking at several thousands for that. And just to close the loop on it, Yeep's original run ended in 2000 after an epic 1,253 issues. There are several attempts to relaunch the title over the years, tapping into the huge nostalgia it still holds in Germany. And I think it's a great little quirk in the vintage Star Wars collecting lore.